Have you ever wondered why the moment you finally figure her out, the moment you finally understand her silences, her withdrawal, her contradictions, she's already gone? Not physically. Maybe. She might still sleep in your bed. She might still respond to your texts with one-word answers. But emotionally, she left the building long before you realized the lights were flickering. You thought you were doing everything right. You listened. You compromised. You gave her space when she asked, attention when she didn't. You read the articles. You tried being emotionally available. You stopped raising your voice. You picked up dinner. You made plans. You asked her what was wrong. She said nothing, but it was never nothing. It was a slow erosion, not out of love, but of interest, of tension, of the edge that used to make her heart race. And you were too focused on doing the right thing to notice the fire had turned cold. Because no one warned you. No one told you that understanding doesn't always come with a reward. That solving the puzzle of a woman doesn't guarantee you keep her. That by the time most men finally open their eyes, the game is already over. You missed the signs because you were trained to miss them. Society taught you to be the steady one, the dependable one, the man who makes her feel safe. But here's the truth. Safety without mystery becomes routine. Stability without tension becomes background noise. And when a woman no longer feels that emotional pull, she drifts. At first, it's subtle. She stops texting you first. She becomes busy. She says she's tired, distant, distracted. You think it's work. You think it's stress. You think it's your fault. So you double down. You give more. You try harder. But here's the part that stings the harder you try. The more invisible you become. Because it's not your effort she craves. It's the feeling she had when she didn't fully have you. When you were just out of reach. When there was still something to chase. You see, most men are taught to win her over and then relax. But most women are wired to feel most alive in uncertainty when emotions are shifting, when the outcome is unclear. She wants to feel, and when you give her everything too soon, there's nothing left to feel except boredom. So she creates friction, picks fights, pulls away. Not because she hates you, but because she needs to feel something again. And if you keep absorbing it, apologizing, accommodating, she loses all respect for you. She may not even know why, but the attraction dies, quietly, permanently. This is the emotional trap. You think you're being a better man by being softer, more patient, more forgiving. But in her eyes, you're becoming the man she no longer looks at the same way. You're no longer a challenge. You're no longer a mystery. You're no longer a man. And then, one day, you wake up and she's gone. Maybe she leaves you. Maybe she stays. But you can feel it, the coldness in her touch, the obligation in her kiss, the way she looks through you instead of at you. She's not there. She hasn't been for a long time. And now you're sitting in the ruins of a relationship you thought was working, wondering what the hell just happened. You try to talk to her, to communicate, but she doesn't want to talk anymore. She's already mourned the relationship in silence, months before you even sensed the shift. She cried in private. She felt guilty, then numb, then free. And now, it's too late. This is what happens to good men. Men who try to do everything right. Men who think love is about consistency, devotion, showing up. But no one told you that women don't fall in love with predictability. They fall in love with energy, with tension, with the part of you that doesn't fold under pressure, that doesn't beg for peace, that doesn't break to please her. So when you finally understand what kept her interested, it's always in hindsight. And by then she's already gone, because she didn't leave for someone better. She left because you stopped being the man who made her feel alive. You became safe, and safe doesn't win desire. You need to see this now, before it happens again. Before you become the man who always gets left behind. before you keep confusing kindness with attraction, devotion with magnetism, because being a good man is not the same as being a strong one. And if you don't figure that out, she will, long before you do. You kept thinking that love was about effort, that if you showed her how much you cared, how much you were willing to sacrifice, she'd value you more. You thought emotional transparency would bring you closer. You thought consistency meant strength, but it didn't. Not to her. Because somewhere in the emotional wiring of attraction, women don't just respond to love, they respond to polarity, to contrast, to distance, to that flicker of uncertainty that keeps her nervous system engaged. And when you removed all the friction, when you became fully available, fully safe, fully predictable, the polarity died. It's not your fault. You were told that women wanted openness, honesty, presence. You were trained to believe that if a man showed up not just physically but emotionally, he would be cherished. So you became soft. You lost your edge. You thought being vulnerable would make her stay. But vulnerability without boundaries isn't strength, it's exposure. And the moment she saw that you'd do anything to hold on to her, the dynamic shifted. You didn't notice it, but she did. The power tilted. She didn't even have to say it. Her body language said it all, the sighs, the silence, the stiff shoulders during hugs. She had already made her decision, emotionally. She checked out, and still, you tried harder. You sent longer messages. You asked deeper questions. You brought gifts. You cooked her dinner. You told her you'd wait for her to come around. You even apologized for things you didn't do. What you didn't realize was this: every time you folded to her indifference, every time you played the emotional butler, you confirmed her suspicion that she had outgrown you, that she didn't need to rise to meet your energy anymore because you had lowered yours to keep her. She lost respect for you long before she lost love, and the moment respect dies in a woman's eyes, love follows. Not in a scream, in a whisper, in a shrug, in a polite smile that feels like a funeral. That's when you feel the real heartbreak, not when she slams the door, but when she doesn't care whether you're standing behind it. You tell yourself she's confused, that she just needs time, that if you're patient, if you keep being the good guy, she'll come around. She won't. Because you were never competing with another man. You were competing with her emotional memory of how she used to feel when she didn't fully have you, when she wasn't sure what you'd do next, when your attention wasn't guaranteed, when your masculinity was unshaken by her moods. That version of you is gone. You replaced him with someone safe, someone agreeable, someone soft, and now you're paying the price. Here's what no one tells you: women test men not to destroy them, but to feel them, to know where their limits are, to sense their backbone. Every time she pulls away, she's watching what you'll do. Will you chase? Will you collapse? Will you try to earn her back like a boy chasing his mother's approval? Because that's how it starts to feel for her maternal, like she's the one leading, directing, shaping your emotional responses. And no woman wants to mother the man she's supposed to desire. You thought being available would make her feel loved, but it made her feel like your lifeline, that you had no identity without her. And while that may sound romantic in poetry, in real life, it repels her. That's why, when she leaves, she looks so calm, because she's not shocked, she's not torn, she's relieved. She finally gets to stop pretending. But you're shattered. You didn't see it coming. You thought everything was fine because you never raised your voice, because you paid attention, because you gave more than you received. You thought doing everything right would protect you. It didn't. Because the truth is, most men lose women not through failure, but through overcompensation, through abandoning themselves to keep the relationship alive, through trying to become what they think she wants, instead of being what they know they are. And by the time they realize it, by the time the fog clears and they see where they gave up their edge, she's already in someone else's arms. Not because he's better, but because he's not begging, because he doesn't need her to validate his worth. And whether she knows it or not, that's what she craved all along. A man who can want her without needing her, who can love her without losing himself, who can walk away when respect is gone. But you stayed, you compromised, you gave more, until you became invisible. Now you sit in the aftermath, alone, confused, playing every moment in reverse like a courtroom replay, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. But that's the trap, thinking there was a single moment, a specific mistake, a word said wrong. There wasn't. It was the accumulation, the slow self-erasure, the unspoken agreement that you'd be less of yourself so she could be more comfortable. And here's the cruel truth. The more you disappeared, the more she did too. Because women don't stay loyal to a man who worships them, they stay loyal to a man who makes them rise. You thought sacrifice would prove your love, but it just proved that you needed her more than you valued yourself. And in that imbalance, all the attraction died. You may have thought you were being strong, that swallowing your pain, tolerating the disrespect, waiting through her emotional shutdowns was maturity. But it wasn't maturity. It was passivity. It was fear of loss disguised as love. She knew it too. On some level, she could feel your fear. She could sense that she was your emotional oxygen, that without her, you didn't know who you were. And that's not romantic. That's suffocating. You trained yourself to be harmless, but in doing so, you became forgettable. That's the hidden danger of modern dating advice. It tells you to be safe, sensitive, emotionally fluent. But it never tells you that desire lives in the tension between comfort and danger, between knowing and wondering, between trust and challenge. Women need both, and you gave only one. And what did she do? She found someone who gave her less and somehow made her feel more. The guy who doesn't text back in paragraphs, the guy who tells her no without explaining, the guy who doesn't collapse when she's moody, who keeps doing his thing while she spirals. And now you're angry at her, at him, at yourself, because it makes no sense. You were the one who cared. You were the one who showed up. You were the one who sacrificed. And still, you were the one left behind. That's when the bitterness kicks in. You start seeing women as manipulative. You start calling them ungrateful. You feel cheated, used. You tell yourself you'll never be that open again. But that's not strength either. That's just another reaction to powerlessness. Because the truth is, she didn't betray you, she just responded to what you allowed. She sensed your need, your anxiety, your lack of boundaries, and her biology lost interest. It wasn't evil, it was evolutionary. Women are wired to follow strength, emotional, psychological, energetic strength. You showed love, but you didn't show strength. And she felt it. And here's the part that's hardest to accept. You can't get her back by doing more. You can't fix it with words, promises, tears, because the man she left isn't the one she wants, and you've become him even more in your attempt to hold on. If she comes back, it won't be because you convinced her, it will be because you changed, silently, without broadcasting it, because you stopped orbiting her, because you rebuilt yourself from the ground up, not for her, but because you realized who you were before her. That's the part most men miss. They think transformation is a performance, that if they show her they've read the books, hit the gym, practice stoicism, she'll return. But women don't respond to declarations. They respond to energy. If your energy still screams, "I need her," She'll feel it even if your words say the opposite. And she'll leave again. So stop performing. Stop trying to be who she wants. Start being who you stopped being the moment you met her, the man with direction, boundaries, a backbone, the man who doesn't argue his worth. You don't need to hurt her back. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to remember what it felt like to move through the world without asking for approval, to make decisions without checking if she'll be okay with them, to live, not for her validation, but for your own self-respect. That's when things start to shift, not just with her, but with every woman, because they can sense it, they can smell it. A man who doesn't need to be needed, a man who can love without losing center, a man who stays grounded even when they push every button. And when you become that man, you won't need to chase anymore. You won't need to explain. You won't even need closure, because you'll finally see it clearly, coldly. Honestly, she didn't reject you. She rejected the version of you that couldn't hold the frame. Now you understand, not with words, not with theories, but with experience, the kind that burns through your chest when the silence is too loud. You don't need her to tell you what went wrong. Her absence told you everything. And maybe now, after all of it, you're ready to hear what you couldn't before. You were never supposed to revolve around her. You were supposed to be the center of your own life. A woman was meant to orbit that, not become the sun that you worshipped. But you lost that frame. You let her moods dictate your day. You let her tone set your self-worth. You handed her control of your peace, your clarity, your masculinity, and you called it love. It wasn't love, it was dependence. It was survival dressed up in romantic language. You stopped leading, and so she stopped following. Because when a man stops leading, not just with decisions, but with energy, with certainty, with grounded presence, a woman feels it instantly. She may not say it, but her body knows. Her nervous system knows. Her desire knows. And she will either start testing you to feel something again or start looking elsewhere for it. You became afraid of conflict, afraid to upset her, afraid to lose her. So you said yes when you meant no. You apologized when you should have walked away. You compromised when you should have drawn a line in the sand. You betrayed yourself slowly, one skipped boundary at a time. That's how you lost her. Not in one moment, not in a dramatic scene, but in 1,000 micro-submissions, where you made her emotional state more important than your integrity. She didn't ask you to do it, but she watched you do it, and every time you did, her respect chipped away, until eventually, her love had nothing left to stand on. And now you understand. You understand that being a good man doesn't mean being agreeable. It doesn't mean being soft. It doesn't mean trying to soothe every storm she creates. A good man isn't the one who keeps her calm. He's the one who stays calm no matter what she does. That's the frame. The frame isn't about control. It's about containment, emotional containment, psychological weight, the ability to hold your own regardless of her chaos, to remain unmoved by the noise, not because you don't care, but because you care enough to stay rooted. And when a woman feels that, truly feels it, she relaxes. She trusts. She follows. Not because you made her, but because her biology compels her to. But if you hand her the frame, if you make her the center, she will destroy you, even if she loves you, because you've put her in a role she was never designed to carry. You gave her your power, and she resented you for it. So now you have a choice. You can collapse into resentment, blaming her for leaving, blaming yourself for being too soft, blaming the world for not warning you. Or you can rebuild quietly, without drama, without performance. You can reclaim the parts of you that you buried in the name of love. You can stop looking for her approval and start building your backbone. You don't need her back. What you need is your dignity, because once you have that, everything changes. You stop chasing. You stop convincing. You stop performing. You stop bleeding emotionally every time a woman pulls away. You stop interpreting her affection as evidence of your worth. You start to lead again, not with control, but with direction. That's when she feels it. That's when they all feel it. The shift in your energy, the way you stop asking, the way you move without explaining, the way your presence says, I'm enough with or without you. And the irony, that's when she often comes back. But you won't be waiting, because you'll finally see the whole truth, not just the part that hurt, but the part that healed you, that your greatest mistake wasn't losing her. It was thinking you needed her to feel whole. And that's the final step. Not revenge, not silence, not even indifference, but peace. Real peace. The kind that comes from knowing you'll never shrink again to fit inside someone else's fantasy. The kind that comes from being the man you were always meant to be before the world told you to be softer, safer, smaller. And when she looks at you again, if she does, she won't see the boy who begged for her love. She'll see the man who survived without it. Now comes the silence, not hers. Not theirs, yours. The silence of no longer explaining, no longer justifying, no longer trying to prove why you're enough. The silence that comes when you stop needing to be understood and start choosing to understand yourself. You're no longer trying to fix what went wrong with her, because now you know what really broke your own relationship with your value. You weren't rejected because you weren't good enough. You were rejected because you gave everything too early, too easily, without making her earn the right to hold your heart. And that's what men like you never get told. That a woman respects what she has to work for. That emotional safety doesn't come from being endlessly available. It comes from being grounded, solid, immovable under pressure. You thought that giving her all your attention would win her love. But she didn't want attention, she wanted presence. She wanted to feel your depth, your weight, your unshakable sense of self, not your devotion, your direction. And now that you've felt what happens when you abandon that, you'll never do it again. You don't need to hate her, you don't need to villainize her. She was just acting on instinct. Her attraction faded because your polarity collapsed. That's all. You gave her emotional control and called it commitment, but it was surrender. She didn't want to be your therapist. She wanted to feel your masculine core, the part of you that doesn't bend just because she's upset, or distant, or testing you. And when you finally stopped chasing, when you stopped bleeding to prove your loyalty, when you sat in your own silence and reclaimed your worth, that's when the shift began. Quiet, internal, permanent. Now, when you walk into a room, women feel something different. They don't know what it is, but they sense it. It's not arrogance, it's not game, it's weight, it's presence. It's a man who doesn't need anything from them to feel whole. That's when women start leaning in, not because you asked, but because your energy no longer says, pick me. It says, I'm already chosen by me. You stop becoming the man women mold. You became the man women adjust to. That's the quiet power. That's the shift. No shouting, no anger. Just a steel spine and a steady gaze that says, you can join me, but I won't chase you. And what happens to the woman who left? The one who didn't understand what she had until it was too late? Maybe she watches from a distance. Maybe she circles back, testing to see if the old you is still there. The one who folded, the one who texted too fast, the one who waited on her mood to decide if he felt valuable that day. But he's gone. Now. She's the one feeling uncertain. She's the one analyzing your silences. She's the one who wonders how the man she once had in her hands now lives like she never existed. And it's not revenge, it's revelation. A mirror held up to her indecision. a reflection of her choices. You don't need to block her. You don't need to post quotes. You don't need to show her what she lost. You just keep building, keep rising, keep becoming more and more of who you were before you were broken into pieces for love. The goal isn't to win her back. The goal is to never betray yourself again. And when you do that, when you stop performing and start standing, you stop fearing love. You stop fearing loss. You stop fearing her moods, her silences, her ability to leave, because now you understand something most men never will. You never lose a woman who truly respects you. You only lose the ones who needed your weakness to feel strong. And now that you've rebuilt yourself without their approval, no one can take that from you. She didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect.